trying to stay in front of Jake Melton. Jackson Hayes will protect it effectively. Look at Jackson run. Look at Jackson protecting. Back door. There's the touchdown.
And how's it going, folks? Welcome to Off the Dome Sports. My name is Sean Militello, and I'm joined by a special guest here on Off the Dome Sports. His name is Mr. Bob Rose, covers the New Orleans Saints for the Saints News Network and Sports Illustrated team, right? Mm-hmm. And he's the co-host of Bayou Blitz 412 podcasts. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're taking a little hiatus. Kyle Mosley and I have from the Bayou Blitz this summer, but we're getting ready to roll full head steam into the regular season. Looking forward to it. And Sean, thank you so much for having me on. My pleasure to join you, man.
I really appreciate you coming on and taking time out your day to join us and talk about some Saints football starting up pretty soon on Sunday in the afternoon. I believe it starts at 3:25. I think that's the set kickoff time.
Yes, sir. 3:25 Central Time. Of course, I'm stuck in the Eastern Time Zone, where the Saints will be on Sunday afternoon in Jacksonville, Florida. A home game to start the season.
Yeah, a home game. I think Mayor, what's her name? Mayor of New Orleans, Cantrell. Is that her name?
Yes, sir.
She says the Saints could be back by early October. I think that's what she said. Not too sure, but looks like we might be playing in Jacksonville a little bit more. I don't know how many more home games we were supposed to have up till October. Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, actually, and I just did a piece on this a few days ago. The Saints are rather fortunate because they were only going to be at home for 2 of the first 7 weeks. One of the weeks was a bye, and then four away games. And their next home game, like you said, is scheduled to be October 3rd against the Giants. And Mayor Cantrell did come out, I believe it was yesterday, and said that everything seems to be on schedule for the Saints to return to New Orleans, not only to play their football games, but inside their practice facility. If they can't, if there's a little bit of delay, and the main issue, of course, as you know, is the power outages in the area. But if there's a delay getting the power back on and the logistics of the surrounding area, then New Orleans is going to be forced to juggle their schedule. You pointed out Jacksonville; they might end up in Jacksonville again because the Dallas Cowboys have a home game on October 3rd, which means AT&T Stadium, the Jerry Dome, is going to be out for that Giants game if the Saints aren't indeed back in New Orleans by that date.
Wow. So if it's not Dallas playing in Dallas, it might be Jacksonville again for the other home game. Wow. So how do you think, and I know we wanted to talk about the recent transactions, but this is a good topic to talk about right now, but how do you think the Saints are going to handle more of an outside stadium? I know they practice in the heat, but playing a full game in the Florida heat. I know Louisiana heat, I mean, it's the same thing, but I mean, man, is that going to be a tough, game for them? Because we're not used to home games outside, right?
Yeah, and that is true. And it's certainly a challenge. But the main challenge is the players and coaches, they don't get to sleep in their own beds. They don't get to enjoy the comforts of home. As far as the venue itself, we've seen Sean Payton teams do very, very well in outdoor stadiums, be it up north in November and December, or even any kind of grass venue in recent years. So these aren't the Saints of old. And I am old enough, unfortunately, to remember, those Mora teams, Jim Mora teams of the late 80s and early 90s. They typically didn't play well in outdoor venues, be it up north or otherwise. But Sean Payton's teams are just the opposite in recent years. He has built the type of squad. They can beat you inside the dome. They can beat you in your stadium. Hell, they can beat you on a gravel road, with nobody watching. This team is prepared to win under any circumstances. And I really like the way the organization itself has handled themselves, and just their entire organization of the whole events surrounding Ida, the evacuation and moving of team facilities. They just seem to have approached it very organized, and I think this team is going to come out with a chip on their shoulder and something to prove on Sunday.
For sure, and I think it kind of shows. And I know we're Saints guys, and I don't mean to toot our own horn, but it's like it kind of shows you how professional we have been as an organization when it comes to preparing for games over the past entire tenure of Sean Payton. Be honest with you, since 2006. I believe I saw something. I'm not too sure what year they dated back to, but I think it was maybe the past decade. We were the top 5 most winnings team. I think we ranked number 5 with 101 wins. I'm not too sure what year they date that back, but obviously the Seahawks, Steelers, Patriots, and I believe that's it. And maybe somebody else. They were also in the top 5, but that just shows you how professional this organization has been under Sean Payton. And like you just said, no matter where they play, they're going to come prepared,
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And I believe that. I saw it too. I believe that graphic went back 10 years. And yeah, the Saints are the 5th ranked NFL team in terms of victories during that span with 101. And they rank even higher over the last 4 years, where of course they've won the last 4 straight NFC South titles. They're either first or second in the NFL over the last 4 years as far as victories go. So this team, and I expect them to be a strong contender yet again for not only the division crown, but the NFC title itself.
Right. So let's get into a deeper dive, maybe into the recent transactions the past couple of days. You start off with signing Desmond Trufant after a workout. And then what was it, the same day where we released Latavius Murray?
Yeah, it actually was. It was later that evening, even though it wasn't announced until the next day. And that I realized the Latavius Murray release disappointed some people, but Latavius, bless his heart, because I love him as a person, as a player. But he just had a lousy training camp. And when the team approached him, this was the story anyway. When the team approached him to take a pay cut to save a little bit more salary cap space, he refused, which is of course his prerogative. So the Saints released him, and then turned around, and then within 24 hours had swung a deal with the Houston Texans to land another cornerback in the name of Bradley Roby to go along with the Desmond Trufant signing. So we've seen Sean Payton say a number of times this offseason how they were going to focus on strengthening the cornerback position. And I think within the last 48 hours, certainly on paper, they have done exactly that.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I apologize. I didn't hear what you said.
Well, I'm working with a new system here. It's sometimes I forget I have myself on mute. So, but anyways, what I was trying to say, I was disappointed in how Latavius Murray didn't work out, because I feel like he's been one of the better running backs we have had behind Alvin Kamara, even so much better, like maybe a little better than Mark Ingram was as far as talent, but it just didn't work out, and he did not have a good preseason. And I honestly was shocked that they didn't cut him last week, So, especially with Tony Jones blowing up like he did. not only just the run he had, but his pass blocking was very impressive.
Yeah, it sure was. And listen, you are exactly right. For the last 4 years, the Saints have had arguably the league's best 1-2 punch in their backfield. With Kamara, of course, being the constant. 2017-18, you paired him with Mark Ingram, and then the last 2 years, Latavius Murray. But Tony Jones just balled out like crazy. Not only in the 2 preseason games, but every training camp practice as well. I knew Jones was a solid runner coming out of Notre Dame. I liked the way, I liked his vision, liked the way he hit the holes. Pass receiving out of the backfield was a little bit of a question, but it looked like he worked hard on that this offseason. And yeah, he did. He did really stand out as a pass blocker as well. And we've seen Sean Payton pick an overlooked or an undrafted back over and a more established veteran in the past, and that's paid off pretty well. But a lot of eyes are going to be on Tony Jones because the Saints this Sunday, they're going to need to move Alvin Kamara around against that Green Bay Packers defense because they want to get Alvin in space as often as possible. But that's only going to work if Tony Jones can prove himself to be an effective rusher out of the backfield when Kamara is split out wide. I think Jones can do it, but it's his first game really that counts in the standings. So that pressure is going to be ratcheted up. I'm interested to see how Tony's going to do.
For sure. And since he's now the clear-cut number 2, honestly, right before we take a deep dive in Desmond Trufant and Bradley Roby, do you see the Saints picking up another running back? Because you just have Tony Jones, Kamara, and Dwayne Washington, huh?
Yeah, and I think it's certainly possible. Listen, they're not going to pursue a big name unless this backfield doesn't perform well on Sunday. And even if Kamara, knock on wood, even if Kamara has an off game, you know what you have in him. So I'm talking more like if Tony Jones disappoints Sean and what he's able to do for that offense, then you'll see the Saints maybe even bring back a Latavius Murray if he's still available or pursue another back. Otherwise, I think that they will add another running back or 2 for the practice squad purely for depth purposes, because as you pointed out, they just don't have any depth right there at that position right now. If God forbid one of their top backs were to go down. Now you do have Ty Montgomery, who has been taking snaps at wide receiver throughout training camp. So that's a known commodity that they can move back into the backfield if they had to. But if you do that, that weakens an already questionable receiving core too. So I think they'll make some more moves at running back, but I don't expect it'll be any big names.
Didn't they sign a running back from Miami, Malcolm Perry? Did I see that somewhere, or did he get signed to the practice squad maybe?
If he did, Sean, I missed it, so I apologize. I know they have a couple fullbacks. They picked up Adam Prentice, undrafted rookie fullback from Denver after they released him. He may be on the active roster on Sunday, and then they re-signed fullback Alex Arma to the practice squad. But again, those guys are more pure fullbacks. They're not going to give you much in terms of rushing output. But if the Saints added another running back other than that for the practice squad, I missed it, so I apologize.
No. I don't even know. I'm not sure if I got his name right, to be honest with you. But yeah, I certainly agree. I mean, unless knock on wood, unless the injury happens, maybe we don't see him pick up another running back. You mentioned Ty Montgomery. I totally forgot. But also, like you said, it could weaken your receiver core if he has to play running back. But also, you can't forget about Taysom Hill. We've seen him once or twice in the backfield. And honestly, man, he could play running back.
Oh, absolutely. And I still expect Taysom to be a big part of this offense in several different alignments and packages. We heard reports yesterday that Taysom was working a lot with the tight end room in game planning for the Packers. And I suspect that's just to get him up to speed on some different receiving packages or perhaps blocking packages that they're going to work him out of. Because as you mentioned, we know that Taysom is a force out of the backfield. So it's not going to take him sitting in a lot of running back meetings to get him caught up to speed on what they want to do with the running backs this Sunday. I think Taysom, as long as Jameis plays well and stays healthy, Taysom's going to be used in a variety of different ways throughout the offense. And that's why they re-signed Trevor Siemian this week too. Trevor will probably be the number 2 quarterback this Sunday in case Jameis goes down, for a few snaps or even a quarter or so. It'll probably be Trevor rather than Taysom coming in to take the snaps. But Taysom will certainly be active throughout the rest of the offense.
For sure. And for some reason, I had this thought in my head that Taysom might not take on that role at full force just because he's been training that quarterback for the whole offseason. But I think he's going to do whatever the team wants him to do because he's a team guy. But let's get on to Bradley Robley and Desmond Trufant. What I had, my two questions are, well, not two, this question is, and I said this on Twitter, is, you see Roby in the slot more and when he played for Denver, right? And then he played more outside with the Texans. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Roby was, Denver's first round pick in 2014, 13 or 14. I think it was 14, out of Ohio State. So the Saints continue that Ohio State train that they're on. But Denver didn't really need to play Roby much at outside corner, his first 4 or 5 years with them, because they had Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib. So Roby's responsibility with the Broncos was primarily out of the slot, and he was part of a deep secondary for the Denver Broncos. Then when Roby joined the Houston Texans in 2019, he basically vaulted into that number 1, number 2 cornerback spot, which of course requires a lot more outside coverage, and the Texans' top corner last year. He is still certainly capable of moving in the slot, which means that just means he has the versatility that Dennis Allen likes in his defensive backs. Marshawn Lattimore is probably going to shadow Devontae Adams as much as possible for the Packers this Sunday, but the Packers have a pretty deep receiving corps. So, Dennis Allen and that defensive staff, they're going to juggle around their corner. Well, first of all, I'm sorry, Bradley can't even play this Sunday because he's suspended. But when he does come back, they're going to be moving him from slot to outside, see where his best fit is, and where Ken Crawley and Paulson Adebo are playing well too. If Adebo or Crawley are playing better from the slot than the outside, or vice versa, they know that Bradley Roby has the versatility to slide into that other spot and kind of bolster the entire cornerback unit.
For sure. And I think it gives us depth, and depth is what we needed at the cornerback position. Also, Desmond Trufant, I know he's been predominantly a outside corner. Can you see him also playing in the slot and being more versatile like the others?
They'll probably work him out in that capacity, yeah. But like you said, Sean, Desmond's strength has always been as an outside corner. He's about 6 foot, 195, but he's a physical defender, and he still has the athleticism to stay with most receivers, and man coverage down the field. And obviously, the Saints are very familiar with him, having gone up against him for a few seasons in Atlanta. My worry with Trufant is his durability. He's missed 15 of the last 32 games with injuries. And the Bears moved on from him after signing him as a free agent this preseason, because he missed some time in training camp. Now, I was hearing that was for personal reasons, family issues, more than injury. But you still don't see a team often move on from an established cornerback unless there's an issue there. So that's my question with Trufant. Schematically, he fits in, I think, with the Saints scheme more as an outside guy. But yeah, they'll probably work him in the slot. My concern is whether Desmond can stay healthy.
Right. And the good thing is, I don't think he's going to have to play a lot of snaps. I think he's, he'll come in and give Paulson Adebo some breather and Lattimore. And so hopefully he doesn't have to play too often where he could risk getting hurt, because he's not, like you just said, not a very durable guy in a 16-17 game season. So considering that, I think after those two recent transactions, I think the secondary definitely got better, just because you just got depth. And because you're rolling with Lattimore and Adebo, and it's like, even though Adebo looked really good in preseason, it's like, well, what happens to one of them, especially if Lattimore was to get suspended, which I don't think that's going to happen anymore, because it seems like the Chargers the charges dropped. So it was getting really dicey for a minute, and you add them two, and then you get a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, no doubt. And then you factor in Ken Crawley in the mix. And I know a lot of Saints fans don't have a high opinion of Crawley, but the reality is he played really well in both preseason games and throughout training camp. And he was a solid starter for this team in 2016 and 17. Crawley certainly has some inconsistency issues. He gets real grabby with those small, shifty receivers, but he's always played very well against the big physical guys. So again, like you mentioned, with the depth the Saints now have at secondary, Crawley's never going to have to cover a team's number one wideout. That job goes to Lattimore. So you can juggle Adebo, Trufant, Roby when he comes off the suspended list, and even Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to play some cornerback there. You can play matchups with a lot of your cornerbacks now and move Crawley onto a bigger guy where his skill set is more attributable. So I'm really excited with how this secondary looks right now.
For sure, and we can honestly say the defense might be the strength of this team. The only unit on defensively I'm kind of worried about, just because there's a lot of question marks in my opinion, is the defensive line. I don't think a lot of people has been talking about this because, Cam Jordan is getting older, doesn't look like his young self like he once was, still productive. And honestly, he creates a lot of sacks for others sometimes, but, he's not the same pass rusher, like he used to be. He can still be effective, but just not the same. Marcus Davenport, it's a 50-50 toss up where you're going to get a all pro performance, or you're just going to get, he's going to be hurt, or he's just going to, shit the bed. And then, your interior defensive lineman is where it really gets dicey, because you got a bunch of guys who were undrafted and are undrafted, since Onyemata is on a 6-game suspension. So can you give a little bit more insight, mostly in the interior defensive linemen? Who are your starters there, and do you think they are capable to last until Onyemata gets back?
Well, and I'll actually start with the edge first. I think you're right. Cam Jordan is coming off a really down year, certainly by his lofty standards. I still think I think he's going to come out with a chip on his shoulder, and we're going to see how much he has left in the tank. Davenport needs to stay healthy, but it looks like that light switch has turned on. And the more film that I watched on rookie Peyton Turner, the more excited I am to see him on this Saints defensive line. And then, I expect a breakout season from Carl Granderson, and their free agent signing of Tanoa Passanio from the Chiefs, I think, is going to be a really underrated signing. Passanio also played a lot of snaps at defensive tackle for this team against the Ravens and Jaguars in the preseason, and played pretty well. And I think that that's going to be important, because Onyemata's 6-game suspension really hurts this team. Like you said, they'd already lost Sheldon Rankins, Malcolm Brown in the offseason, and then Jalen Dalton was having a spectacular training camp before he got hurt for the year. That's a crippling blow. They're going to start, at least I believe they're going to start Shy Tuttle and Malcolm Roach against Green Bay this Sunday. Tuttle and Roach both showed flashes of being very good players as rookies, Tuttle over the last 2 years, but they've never had to do it on a consistent basis. So are they going to be able to step up and do so? And if not, is a guy like Christian Ringo, who was a surprise roster keep because of a strong training camp, and then this past week, lost in the hoopla over the cornerback additions. New Orleans added defensive tackle Montravis Adams and Jaleel Johnson too. Jaleel's a run-stopping guy. Played pretty well with the Minnesota Vikings. Adams is an athletic guy, built similar to Onyemata, but kind of a disappointment over his first 3 seasons with Green Bay. I know a lot of people were down on the defensive tackle unit in training camp. I kind of take that with a grain of salt, because training camps aren't nearly as physical as they used to be. What I did see is during both preseason games, the tackle unit, the defensive line in general, but the interior linemen got some decent push and were able to stalemate both the Ravens and Jaguars running attack. And that's really what you need from the defensive tackles from the Saints, regardless of who they are. You don't need an Aaron Donald or a Sheldon Rankins or a Geno Atkins in his prime. You don't need a guy like that because you have so much talent at the edge. What these guys need to do for the Saints from their tackle position is just tie up blockers and get push either in the against the pass pocket or stalemate those linemen in the running game and let the edge guys and linebackers do their job. Will they be able to do it? Only time will tell, but I was encouraged from what I saw in the preseason.
And for sure, and I believe we got one of the best defensive line coaches in the league, Ryan Nielsen. He, in my opinion, might be a head coach one day, college or pros. But yeah, I mean, where do you rank this defense? And I know we didn't talk about linebackers, but I feel like we're pretty solid on linebackers. In fact, the linebackers, I would say, might overtake the secondary, maybe the best, group defensively, just because, you've seen Sack Bond breaking out, and you still got the rookie Pete Warner. Obviously, you got your leader, Demario Davis, Quan Alexandra. What a crazy, man. Like, it's been 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how's that possible, man?
I think he's Wolverine. I do. I think he's going to replace Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And Quan needs to stay healthy. He's going to be on a limited snap count early on, but just the fact that he's back on the field is really encouraging. And like you said, you have Demario Davis, who, for my money, he's one of the NFL's top 3 defenders at any position. Zach Bond, who I was really high on when they drafted last year. You could really tell, see a big difference between him after the position move he had as a rookie. After a whole offseason to digest the system, that man looks like he's going to be a monster. And, Pete Warner has the ability to be an every down linebacker. Once he gets up to speed, he had a really strong start to training camp before injuries slowed him. And even the team showed that they have some depth there. I really like the preseasons that both Caden Ellis and Andrew Dowell had. And they kept Chase Hansen for special teams and to just add to that depth. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the linebacker unit could be the strongest unit, not only on this defense, but perhaps the entire team. To give a long answer to your question, I think this has the potential to be Sean Payton's best defense during his tenure with the Saints. And I think it's a top 3 defense in the NFL, especially when Onyemata comes back.
Wow. And, that's a top 3. We're a top 5 last year, right? Yeah. So top 3 would, we might not even have to do much in offense, and that, I guess that kind of explains why us Saints fans, I would say realistic ones, aren't too freaked out about what we had to deal with over the offseason, losing, Drew Brees, you're losing Michael Thomas for half the season. You also question marks at tight end, and you're basically left with Kamara and Marquez Callaway, who looks really good. I drafted him in one of my leagues. Hopefully he balls out for me. So I think, if Sean Payton can master this offense with the players he's got, and he brings his team to the playoffs, he doesn't even have to win the division. I think it could be one of his best work ever, just based off what has happened this offseason.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. And, like I said at the start of the show, I still do believe that this is a playoff roster. I think they're going to have some bumps in the road early on, because I think Jameis Winston is going to do well, but there's going to be an adjustment period, with him at quarterback, particularly his relationship between, with Sean Payton, Payton's comfort level with Jameis, and Jameis's comfort level within the offense. So there's going to be some early bumps, there's not too many teams that can weather the storm of being without David Onyemata, Michael Thomas, and Will Lutz, one of the most reliable kickers in the NFL for the first chunk of the season. So it would not surprise me if New Orleans was sitting at around 500 by the time those guys got back. But this is going to be a much stronger team at the end of the year, particularly if you get good quarterback play, because we talked about the defensive line, but the Saints are going to win a lot of games because of their offensive line as well. That's going to cover up for a whole lot of woes. That's going to give Jameis the time he needs to more patiently go through his progressions. And again, as he and Peyton feel more comfortable with each other, Sean's going to keep a tight rein on Jameis, I think, early on. He's going to control the play calling. People don't realize how much Peyton handed over to Breeze, especially in big moments, 2-minute drills, things like that, once the rhythm got going. It's going to be very important to see how much offensive rhythm is going to happen with the Saints offense and Jameis Winston early on. But as these two men get comfortable with each other, we're going to start to see the Saints offense hum more and more. It's not going to be a Drew Brees offense. Those are just too big a shade. You don't fill the gigantic shadow of a legendary Hall of Famer really at all, let alone like that. But there's enough talent around Jameis Winston that this team can still be a winner.
For sure. And I have all the confidence in the world with Jameis Winston. Just the fact that what he had to go through was a humbling experience, and I think it really matured him as a person. And he's become more of a leader, and in years past, you've seen him at Florida State. You've seen him, obviously with the Buccaneers, and it's mostly with the Buccaneers. It's like, he tried to be the leader. It's just, I guess his play didn't back it up, and I don't think he had a lot of respect because, especially with, when he was at the Buccaneers, he's talking about eating a W. Everybody's like, "What is this guy doing?" But he has become a really likable person over the past 2 years, I would say, and I'm ready to see what he does. I bought his jersey, so hopefully, so I got all the support, and I would have had the same support for Taysom Hill if he was named the starter, and they both deserve it. I don't think people realize, Jameis Winston worked very, very hard this offseason, but a lot of people don't understand how hard Taysom Hill worked this offseason just because he's not a social media guy. So he doesn't post a lot of workouts and stuff like that. People don't realize how hard he worked this offseason just to get to where he is at as a quarterback, and unfortunately he didn't win the job. But I think Jameis Winston could possibly be a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. If, like you said, if Sean Payton, controls him a little, and I think it's gonna be kind of similar to what we did with Teddy Bridgewater when we went 5-0 or 6-0.
5-0, yeah.
Yep. So you might see more of what we did then, and then once Jameis Winston gets more settled, like you said, then you might see more of your big explosive plays.
And don't get me wrong, New Orleans is going to take their shots. And Winston, for any critics of Winston, I don't think anybody on the face of this earth can deny his passing talents. I mean, the man won a Heisman Trophy. He was the first overall pick for a reason. He threw for 5,000 yards. I mean, you only need two hands, and you'll still have a free thumb to count how many people have ever thrown for 5,000 yards. So don't discount that. He has had some wonderful passing games. The only question about him has always been his maturity, as you pointed out, and the fact that he's turnover prone. He likes to play hero ball, for lack of a better term. I think you're right. We're going to see a similar offensive approach to what we saw with Teddy Bridgewater. But remember, too, Jameis Winston is heads and shoulders above Teddy as far as passing talents. So once this receiving core starts to gel, Jameis is going to put up some numbers. And not going to be Drew Brees type of Drew Brees prime type of numbers, because it doesn't need to be. But I think Jameis Winston is going to play very well in this system. You mentioned how much his teammates love him, and he has, by all indications, matured. That whole eating the W's things, I mean, if you get to know Jameis Winston, you realize he's just a goofy kid at heart. But you can be a goofy, immature kid, and you can be a goofy, mature adult. And I think that's where Jameis has kind of evolved into. He was, I'm pretty sure he was just officially named one of the team captains today, which is a big honor for him. And it's not one he's going to take lightly. But at the same time, there's a lot of leadership in that locker room on both sides of the ball to support Winston. He's with an established coaching staff, a less dysfunctional organization than what he had in Tampa. You figure he had 4 head coaches and 4 different offensive coordinators in his 5 years in Tampa Bay. He never had a consistent running game. He never had any consistent pass protection. And the defensive effort in Tampa Bay, I mean, they had a spectacular defense last year, but he never had a consistent defense. So he was often in shootouts with no protection, no consistent coaching staff, and no running game to support him. All of those boxes get checked off with the New Orleans Saints, and that's big.
For sure. And I'm going to get to a couple comments real quick before we start to wrap up the show. Gabe O'Leary, he's a Tom Brady fan. So he says, Breeze in a suit, Brady raising 7. Life is good. Okay. Then we got a comment by Jeremiah Whitley. He said, what's up, y'all? How y'all doing? How's it going? He has a few more comments. I don't even care about these corny defending Super Bowl champions sucking ears, though, and we're still going to get them real soon at the Dome on Halloween. Hopefully, hopefully you are right, Jeremiah. But yes, Winston, I'm talking about when he was with the Buccaneers, man, he didn't have much support, especially under Arians, and I don't think Arians did him any favors. No. You know, a lot of times Arians just likes to take deep shots, especially with a guy like Winston. There's no middle ground. Like, there's not much checkdowns. You know, there's not much. I mean, he targeted tight end a lot over the middle. I guess that was the middle ground. But, you know, there's no checkdowns, no running game. So, and it wasn't a short passing offense. So when you take a shot after shot and you're trailing, so you're doing nothing but passing, I mean, I think it was a recipe for disaster. And sure, I think Jameis deserves some of the blame. What happened? But yeah, because you know he made some awful throws. But the thing is, you know, the way I see it sometimes with his interceptions, a lot of people say this a lot. You take half of his interceptions away, and that's maybe the best season a quarterback has ever had in a long time. So I think, like you said, with Sean Payton and our running game, our offensive line, man, I think the sky's the limit for him. And honestly, I think we're going to be, and I predicted 7-8 wins before the preseason started. I'm leaning more towards 9 or 10 wins.
I'm a little bit more enthusiastic about the season. And again, I thought Jameis was a good fit coming into the offseason. I expected them to re-sign him before they did, and of course they ultimately did. And I wish they had added some more talent at wide receiver, but I love the talent that everywhere else on this football team. Again, on both sides of the ball. So coming into the offseason rather, I had them pegged at about even potentially 13 wins, and to be neck and neck with the Succaneers, for the division title. Again, being without Onyemata, Michael Thomas, Will Lutz, and a couple of unproven guys like Adebo, Warner, Peyton Turner, there's going to be some growing pains early on. I like the way they shored up their cornerback unit. And the last few days, I have strengthened my resolve. I think that I still believe this team is going to go to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to beat out the Buccaneers for the NFC South title, but I have them at 11-6, maybe 10-7, sneaking into the back half of those wild card spots. But listen, all you need to do is get into the show. As we saw with Tampa Bay last year, I think they entered the playoffs as the 7th seed, and they got hot, and of course they rolled on to a Super Bowl title. who's to say the New Orleans Saints can't do that same thing?
Right. It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what the Buccaneers did last year when we beat them twice. In fact, we whooped their ass twice, and then they came back and beat us in the playoffs, which was such a disappointment. But yes, so you say 10 or 11 wins, I say about 9 or 10, and there's a high and low there. So
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, Green Bay Packers, we win the game or not?
Yeah. I think New Orleans is going to come out of here with a 27-24 upset. I believe they'll be able to run the ball on the Packers. Now, we're not talking 3 yards in a cloud of dust, here, because at the end of the day, this is still Sean Payton. Sean Payton likes to throw the ball, so he's going to take his chances. The key is for the defense to be able to get some stops and avoid getting into a shootout. The Packers won this very matchup 37-30 last year, and the game could have gone either way. That's the kind of shootout that the Saints need to avoid to win this game, because if they get into a shootout, that's when Jameis Winston is going to start to make mistakes, turn the ball over perhaps, especially in his first start. He has the physical abilities to get in a shootout, but that's not where I want him to be in game one. So I think as long as New Orleans is going to look to shut down Green Bay's running game, because Green Bay is going to need to run the ball too. And I know this is blasphemous to some, but if I'm Dennis Allen, I say make Aaron Rodgers beat you rather than Aaron Jones, because they have the edge rushers. They have the aggressive safeties and Lattimore that they can match up with Rodgers and perhaps force just a mistake or two to flip field position, flip momentum. And if New Orleans stays balanced on the offensive side of the ball, I see him coming out of here with a close one.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And I have a feeling that we're going to win Sunday as well. And just because, it's in Jacksonville, you're playing in hot weather, something, Packers are not used to coming from Wisconsin. So that's a team that honestly has a lot of hype around, even though, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams were, not wanting to be on the team for, but now, now they have a strange hype. I don't know if you feel the same way about the Packers right now. Right now, you got a lot of hype around them saying, well, now Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are all in and they're going to go all out. Like, okay. So, I mean, I think we're going to come in. I think we're going to be ready prepared. And I think they're going to do this for the state of Louisiana. And they're not going to be like LSU was last week. They're going to come prepared. So I'm going to take the Saints. I'm going to take the Saints 31-17, and I think we're going to go out with a bang in week one.
I would love that. I think Saints fans need a break from all these close nail biters. And there is no quarterback I like to see blown out of their building more than Aaron Rodgers, even more so than Tom Brady. My hate for Aaron Rodgers runs deep, and it runs personal. You'd think he wronged a family member the way I feel about him. But listen, the Packers are going to be no slouch. Like you said, them, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and pretty much that entire NFC West. It's going to be a close battle for playoff berths. And throw all those names in a hat, because any one of them could be a potential Super Bowl team.
For sure. I think it's going to be a great game. I think we're just going to answer this one last question by Jeremiah, and then we're going to get out of here just because he's been commented. Thank you for the comments. He says, so what do y'all think about our team going back to the top of the NFC division leader in 2021? So you think we repeat, or you think this is the Buccaneers?
I think it's the Buccaneers, only because, they have all 22 starters on both sides of the ball coming back. There is the Mr. Brady factor. Like him or hate him, you got to respect what he's done. I think Tampa Bay is going to get off to a stronger start through the season than what New Orleans will be. I know you and I both just predicted the Saints to win this Sunday. But again, they have some tough early season matchups. So I think Tampa Bay will be able to give themselves a little bit of cushion over New Orleans and hold them off for the South Championship. But we saw a 40-year-old Drew Brees falter down the stretch. He just got old suddenly. I see that same kind of thing happening to Tom Brady, maybe down the stretch and in the playoff run. And if the Buccaneers can't run the ball and play that spectacular defense, won that championship for them more than anything else. So yeah, if the Buccaneers show some chinks in the armor, they are not invincible. So honestly, I think the Buccaneers will win the South title. It could be a reversal of what we saw last year. Tampa Bay takes the South, and New Orleans I could see New Orleans beating them on the road in a playoff matchup.
Honestly, that would be awesome. That would be the ultimate revenge. But anyways, I think we're going to get on out of here. Bob, I appreciate you coming on. You can follow him on Twitter at Bobby2613. Is there anywhere else people can find you, or on other social media platforms, or anything else?
Yeah, Sean, and it's absolutely my pleasure to join you. I'd love to do this again sometime. Yeah, I love your show and love talking to you. But folks, you can follow me also over on Facebook, Bob Rose, or we do have a Bayou Blitz Facebook page also. And obviously, you can follow my work and the work of my boss, Kyle Mosley, and Saints beat writer John Hendricks at the Saints News Network, SI.com, or at Saints News over on Twitter as well.
Awesome. Like I said, thank you, Bob, for coming on. Hopefully we get it going again. Maybe we'll come back right after a Saints W against the Packers. I'm also trying to get Brian Biemini on too, to get his reaction after the game too. So maybe we'll do a collab. That'd be cool.
B is the best, man. I love him.
He is awesome. He knows his stuff, man. He really does.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's a who dat for everybody, and we'll catch y'all later.
Who dat? Thank you.